worried for years about her mental stability and, like many others, were frustrated because they saw no easy path to getting her help. They didn't know if she had ever been diagnosed or treated. My hope is just, there was a way, even if she didn't want it, to be forced to sit down with a mental health professional and figure out what is there to do here, said Franklin's 38-year-old son, Hugh Trout, who last saw his mother nearly a decade ago. George Franklin said his sister wasn't ever going to admit she had a problem. He and the Starbucks friends had a plan to get Joe Franklin off the streets. It, too, involved a tall tale. This account of Joe Franklin's life is based on public records, emails, and interviews with family, friends, former colleagues, and associates familiar with her professional highs, as well as her steep, slow-motion fall. Josephine Ann Franklin was born in Chicago on July 31st, 1946, the second oldest of 4 children in an upper-middle-class family. The family moved to Tampa in the mid-1960s, and Joe graduated from the University of Florida in 1968. Her semester abroad in Lebanon kindled a lifelong fascination with the Middle East. She married a surgeon and had 2 children, Ashley Trout in 1981 and Hugh Trout 4 years later. Franklin's resume included work as a producer for the McNeil-Lehrer Report on PBS. She later made a series of documentaries for PBS on Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, as well as a series on the International Space Race.
Oh, what a beautiful little dog.
She often appeared on location in her films and was known professionally by her married name, Joe Franklin Trout.
Okay.
Her 1989 documentary, Days of Rage, The Young Palestinians, aired on PBS and drew barbs from critics who saw a pro-Palestinian slant and lack of Israeli viewpoints. She said at the time that she wanted to showcase a rarely seen perspective. Franklin spent the early part of the 1990s writing a novel, The Wing of the Falcon, billed as a love story and thriller set during the Persian Gulf War. The self-published novel sold poorly after its 1995 release, said Alan Gadney, whose company Franklin hired to produce and market the book, which Franklin had hoped would be made into a movie. A New York Times review acknowledged her Middle East expertise, but said what she cannot do is write. Gadney said he later sued Franklin for roughly $25,000 she owed the company. We went after her, but she disappeared, he said. Franklin moved to California, and her family said they didn't know how she supported herself during the roughly 2 decades she lived there. She split from her husband, and in 1996, a judge in their divorce case noted that Franklin had little taxable income from 1990 through 1992 and hadn't filed a personal tax